So yes, first off, it's great to see people online that were there in Montreal, and thank you again for participating. We'll just give a quick update on what's happening in Canada. We've been working on an organizational structure to try to better support the buildingSMART activities. And so you see different leadership points. We are trying to mirror buildingSMART rooms as much as possible, but yeah, definitely trying to organize and coordinate these rooms is a challenge. And I'll come back to sort of the intent and of the having the summit and getting traction, brand recognition in Canada for buildingSMART and people interested in joining. So the board of directors, as you can see, Bill Moore, President, Claudia Cortez-Toto, and John Hale, Vice Presidents, Anil Ranji, Secretary, Treasurer, David Watson, Susan Keeley-Sag, Board Director, myself, Susan Motluk, and Arash Shahi are directors. We are going through an election process, so we are going to be doing adding people to the board and changing some people who are stepping down. So any good not-for-profit has to have a regular change in direction and change of directors and new blood. So that's what we're working on to just try to broaden the scope of people on the board. One thing is trying to get a good representation and diversity. Diversity is definitely a factor, and so that means diversity of location, of types of backgrounds, so architects and engineers and contractors and subcontractors, academics and government representatives. We do manage to achieve that, but it's something that's there and front and center. Membership is growing. We're still a small, chapter. We're a long-standing chapter, but we're still a small chapter. But we have some key memberships with the government, with the public works and national defense. We have some international groups that are naming us as their local or their chapter in their international partnerships with buildingSMART. So that's always important and interesting. The one key thing is that we've gone from one to 13 members in 2020, and now 13 to 2021, and 13 to 26 in 2022. So we're doubling our growth in membership. Still low, but we're hoping to at least reach 30 by the end of 2022, and who knows if we can double our membership, get up to 60 in 2023. Well, that'll be interesting. We are trying to integrate, or well, not integrate, but coordinate as much as possible with the U.S. chapter. Again, driving the brand recognition of buildingSMART in North America. To gain traction and to sort of become the default go-to with everything that's digital in the built asset industry. Montreal, I'll go over this quickly. Dan did a great summary. So you have the statistics and the recap is very impressive. So good job on that, Dan. It was very, very well put out and very explicative. So I think everything is there to see what went through. So I won't go through the different slots and everything. I'll just talk about the takeaways for us as a chapter and the value of actually holding a summit. I know other chapters have, are maybe more established. They have permanents. They have large groups. We're still in a very much a volunteer-driven organization, so we don't have any permanents. We don't have a paid staff, which we're working on. It's a very key element. For instance, the partner group Quebec, who is the affiliate that was involved in organizing locally. They have 5 paid staff, so that of course helps a lot with getting things done. So for us, it's, it was really building momentum, showing to Canadian, and I think from out of the 770 people, about 300 were from Canada. So I think it's a good proportion, and I would have liked to have that number up. I have to say that with October this year was quite astounding in terms of numbers of conferences and things going on. I think there was a big pent up demand during the pandemic, and now it seemed as though there were conferences every 3 or 4 conferences at the same time every week. So that would explain a bit of a lower attendance from the Canadian part, but still 300 I think is respectable. So again, building momentum for Open BIM, standardization, international collaboration, hopefully through the summit. Now we need to grow it. We need to really capture that and build on it. A lot of people came up to me and sort of were very impressed and didn't understand what Open BIM was. North America is very much locked into a single vendor. So I think that's really opened up in the services that buildingSMART is offering with the BSDD, this UCM certification, et cetera, and the IDS approach, BCF, and so forth. There's a willingness to participate in BSI activities. Now we have to find the right vehicles, and that's always something like who should we be directing to participate in BSI activities? Who should we be organizing locally in the org chart that you saw? And so that right now we're working through that. So we're filtering applications and trying to get people going. So we're seeing a convergence of initiatives. That's what's really something that we wanted to show. So federally, provincially, and I'll come back to that. Locally, we have the National Research Council, who has now got a $180 million Canadian initiative over 9 years to decarbonize the built asset industry, and one of the big thrusts is digitization. So we're getting buildingSMART, of course, involved in open standards there. And same thing with different levels of government. So we're trying to center buildingSMART at that point, at convergence. Like I said, brand recognition is getting better, but we still need to be improved. We still need to work really tightly with the U.S. chapter, and I think that's the only way we're going to actually achieve that brand recognition. It's still very much an initiate group in Canada. And we need to communicate and market these services offered by BSI. I think those are then people start to see the value and can use it. So how do you use the BSDD? How do you use the UCM, et cetera, et cetera. So those were the main takeaways for us. So it was to try to really establish the brand, build momentum, get interest, have people talk and meet with the international delegates. Who knows, maybe hopefully in Rome will be a large contingent, so yeah, those were the main takeaways. If I continue, so just as a chapter update for the next maybe 5 or 6 minutes, we're launching a new website. We're trying to align with the brand, with the buildingSMART International website, but we are having to build it ourselves. So we are adding our own little twists. That will be launched by the end of this year. The affiliates, we talk about it every time, but they're sort of the bread and butter. So we relaunched the affiliate, and that was announced during the summit, and based on 4 key principles around unity, leadership, support, and identity. So these affiliate groups are the buildingSMART Canada's conduit to local networks. And we're not showing them, we're not telling them what to do, we're not imposing them any type of how to say, brand or anything. All we're asking for them is to adhere to a certain set of principles. So remain neutral, remain open, be collaborative, relay the information, and get information and relay it back to the organization so that we can harmonize and organize these local networks. Because of the breadth of Canada, the 4 time zones and everything, we have to work really locally, but act locally, but really think at a national scale. One thing that's sort of a key, so I talked about the National Research Council. We also have an agreement that's being developed with the Canadian Standards Association, building off of this report that we presented during the summit. A couple of key things, it's in English and in French. What myself and a colleague from the University of British Columbia, as well as Eco Innovation Labs and the student wrote the report. The idea here was to, again, we're trying to keep momentum, keep BIM seems to be winding down in terms of people are losing interest and now going on to digital twins and other things, shiny new objects. We still haven't figured out BIM in a proper way in Canada, I would say. We're still experimenting with it, and we haven't structured practice. So that's one thing is that there is a willingness. There's support for mandates, there's support for standardization, and there's interest for open BIM standards. But when you look at it, there's 39% of people that don't know about them. So that's a problem. This is 171 respondents. So these are 3 key things. So we do want government to step in and structure. We have the relationships there. Standards are important. They are seen as important, and open BIM standards are important too. Or there's a lot of education that needs to happen. We propose a framework, and this is again, relating back. What I'm going to do is go rapidly here. And how does this framework look? What does this framework look like? To try to articulate the different pieces of the puzzle. And so we've identified around 45 resources. Many of them aligned with either buildingSMART standards or ISO standards, or upcoming SEN standards that are coming through ISO through the Vienna Agreement. And so we're really not trying to reinvent the wheel and leverage existing work as much as possible. We're just talking about where are things being developed. I think the key takeaway of Figure 10 is that most standards and guidelines and BIM object and BIM naming standards are all coming from at the organizational level. So you can imagine what the problem is there is that every organization is creating its own. And that's really something that we have to work on. It's a flag that we've raised. So that's a positioning piece for and something that buildingSMART can work off of and work with the Canadian Standards Agency Association and as well as other organizations. Professional certification, to my great frustration, has been delayed in Canada for like you saw, our original target was to launch in Q4 2021. We can blame a bunch of issues, but it's just been difficult. Again, volunteer organization, trying to get our ducks in line. I know that the pricing schema and things have changed a bit in the professional certification. Now we've committed to launch in Q1 2023, so an agreement has been signed. We have put the foundation in place, and what we're hoping is to certify 100 people on invitation to get certifications out there and get the ball rolling, and then service providers will see value to that and start and try to chomp at the bit to be able to offer certified training programs. And one thing I know that the certification scheme is aiming more towards private vendors, but we're really seeing appetite and value with public education and institutional academic institutions in offering this. So that's something I know that's being discussed and worked on. Make Council, so 2 minutes. Make Council is one of our sort of key initiatives where we're trying to the Canadian municipalities account for 60% of all infrastructure spending, and own most of the built assets. So we really have to mobilize and structure the municipalities. We did publish two white papers, one white paper in May 2022, both in English and French, around BIM for municipalities. What does it mean? How is it? Why is it? What are the complexities? Because municipalities are at the same time built asset owners and customers, but they're also regulators, and any permit has to be done. So there's sort of many fronts on which digital transformation and digitization can be adopted at the municipal level. The Canadian Annex to ISO 19650 Part 2 has been published and is in use. We're seeing interest. Our contract appendix is being updated. And so that's we're aligning it much more with the 19650 approach. So where it used to be a BIM execution plan and a protocol within the execution plan, we've taken that out. We're appending the BIM appendix to the principal agreement, and then that's informing the BIM execution plan. So that's much more the 19650 approach. So that's in the works. Quick overview of what's happening, and that's a takeaway from the summit. So we wanted to get the federal bodies, provincial bodies, municipal bodies discussing BIM. And so at the summit, we had an associate deputy minister come to present the PSPC, Public Services and Procurement Canada, and you see buildingSMART here as part of the strategic agreements to move things forward. So a roadmap is coming, and buildingSMART has a role to play in terms of helping the organization transition. And then rapidly at the provincial level, so British Columbia, we had a presentation from somebody from the Ministry of Transport. So transport and infrastructure, there is a lot of elements. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, by the presentation. It was very vendor driven. And so we're having a discussion with Andrew to see how we can open it up. So you see it here. He mentioned it. It wasn't very open BIM. It was a bit of a surprise. So that's happening in British Columbia. Alberta has their digital project delivery and COBE requirements that are out there. So it is getting in there. We are trying to work with the government of Alberta to relaunch those initiatives. Ontario, there was discussions around the One Ontario platform, which is a regulatory BIM e-permitting platform that aims to come and harmonize or support different municipalities and have one platform for submission to different municipalities for permitting. And Quebec with the roadmap. So we had representatives from the province of Quebec, from the Société Québécoise des Infrastructures and the Ministry of Transport come to talk about the roadmap. It's a 5-year roadmap, and we're seeing a progressive implementation of BIM across 6 public owners, and we're actually growing that number. So right now we have 6. We have 3 ministries, one energy agency, and 2 municipalities, which have all engaged. And so this is a unique approach. Typically we see roadmaps at for a single ministry, or if we see a country level roadmap, it's provided by a not-for-profit or an organization that's outside the government. This is one of the only roadmaps where it's driven by the Treasury Board, and really is, it's a commitment by multiple ministries, and to drive the adoption. In parallel with that, we have the Quebec Construction 4.0 initiative, which is a competency-based initiative that aims to help SMEs transition and be ready to respond to the demand that's being created by the roadmap. And so we're looking at, it's a $24 million program over 7 years. There's 800 SMEs that are targeted, 100 public owners. So all the small agencies, everything, we have 350 completed to date. And this is the final slide. So we're still dealing with communication issues. So you saw the website revamp. social media. We have to, even our newsletter is, we have to rebuild our newsletter and our offerings. So that's the key issue. And again, the brand recognition, working with the US chapter to get joint communications is going to be really key. Growth, we need to bring on new people. Like, we have a very core group of people that have been around for a long time, but we need more people. We need to have and bring them on. We need to enable people to participate at different levels. And that's something that we struggle with, is like, how do you onboard somebody? How do you get them going? And how do you give them ownership of something? And our relevance is definitely not an issue. So I think more and more buildingSMART, OpenBIM, standardization are relevant. We saw it in their study. It's just that we're not getting heard by the right people. So who are the decision makers within industry and within government that can sort of help us and try to get on board with our agenda. That's our update. So thank you.